So I've already done reviews of Emeraude by Coty and Shalimar by Guerlain, but I've noticed a lot of people seem to think that the two perfumes are quite similar. So I wanted to do kind of a comparison video to see how similar they really were. I have still my sample of Shalimar right here. Now the thing about this sample is that it's the Emeraude Perfume. Originally, Shalimar was an eau de toilette, so a bit different but still more or less the same. Mainly the strength would be different, because the original was the one created in 1925. I believe the eau de parfum was created in the 90s, but it's still more or less the same. And I have the full Emeraude bottle here, which is, this is a clone, and it came out in 1921, so it's a bit older by a few years than Shalimar. And so some people say these scents are very similar, almost spookily similar, while others say they don't smell like each other at all. So the people who say that they smell similar most likely have the vintage perfumes, because obviously both of these perfumes are pretty much 100 years old, almost, and of course scents are going to change over the decades. They're going to be reformulated. Different ingredients are going to be used. A lot of ingredients used in today's modern perfumes are synthetic, while the vintage perfumes were natural ingredients. But even though Emeraude and Shalimar don't smell quite as similar as they used to, they still have many similarities. So I'm gonna try to not mix up the scents here. I'm gonna spray some of the Shalimar sample. Let's see. I'll put it on my left wrist a little bit, and okay, so I'll tell you the scents in a minute. Just let me I'll put this on my other wrist. So I would say the top notes are actually very, very similar. I didn't expect them to be similar right off the bat, because obviously I have tried both of them before, but separately on different days. But the top notes are very surprisingly similar, mainly because they're both very citrusy. So the Emeraude has some relatively basic citrus notes, bergamot, lemon, and orange, and pretty citrusy. I would almost say that there's a bit of pine thrown in, kind of a foresty smell. Not too woodsy right off the bat, but kind of light and pine-ish. The Shalimar, now, in comparison, so immediately as you spray both of them, they're surprisingly similar because the citrus notes are there. But the thing about the Shalimar, from what I'm detecting, is that the citrus notes go away very quickly, almost immediately. So you put it on, you get kind of a burst of citrus. Specifically, the top notes are bergamot, lemon, mandarin orange, as well as cedar. And even right now, the citrus notes are pretty much gone. There's a little bit of fresh lemon in there, but it's very strongly intertwined with the cedar. So the Emeraude still smells a bit more of citrus, so the citrus notes last longer and they're deeper. So for the Emeraude, the middle notes are Brazilian rosewood, jasmine, rose, and ylang ylang, while the middle notes for Shalimar are iris, patchouli, vetiver, jasmine, and rose. So still the same jasmine and rose, which is also probably why a lot of people think that they smell similar. There's technically not really notes of pine in Emeraude, but I think pine in general is pretty present in Emeraude. The Shalimar is immediately very incensey, even though kind of the incense notes aren't supposed to come in until base notes, but I would say like immediately coming off of the top notes, that Shalimar becomes very, very incensey and smoky. And there is a woodiness, probably from the cedar and the vetiver in Shalimar. It's not too rugged, but it's definitely a very warm, woodsy scent. Kind of, if you walk through a forest, you know, you get that natural smell of all the different trees around you. And the base notes for Shalimar, there's quite a lot of them. Civet, vanilla, incense, leather, apopanac, sandalwood, and musk. Oh, and tonka bean. And the base notes for Emeraude are simpler, mainly amber, vanilla, sandalwood, and patchouli. So, even though Emeraude has supposedly vanilla in it, I wouldn't say that it's very prominent at all. The Shalimar, on the other hand, becomes very vanilla forward very quickly. And the longer you wear it, those vanilla notes just get stronger and stronger, I think, in my opinion. But it's always mixed with that incense smell. And I would say it's very accurate to the real smell of real incense. You know, if you got a stick of incense and set it on fire, that smoke is in this perfume, basically. They got some liquid smoke in here. And the vanilla in the Shalimar is not sweet. It's kind of warm and smoky. And the dry down is pretty much that warm and smoky vanilla woodiness, smokiness, until it completely fades away. But the Emeraude is different. Even though some of the base notes are similar, I would say that the dry down is almost completely different. Except for the woodiness. The woodiness is very similar. But other than that, Emeraude is lighter in general, I would say. It could be the fact that this Emeraude is a clone and the Shalimar that I have is Eau Perfume, so it's naturally stronger and more intense. But the notes themselves, Emeraude is a bit lighter, not quite as warm. I wouldn't say it's cold, it's not a cold scent, but it's not as warm as Shalimar, because Shalimar is like literal smoke, and you can't get much warmer than that. But both of these scents are oriental scents, and the story goes that Guerlain was inspired off of the Emeraude from Coty, which came out in 1921, and then Guerlain came out with Shalimar in 1925, so only a few years later. And a lot of people think maybe the Guerlain brand kind of worked with Coty in some way to kind of formulate a very similar scent to kind of, you know, have a good foundation for their perfumes. And a lot of people may say, oh, what's the deal about Emeraude? Emeraude is not, I mean, it's a cheap perfume you can get pretty much anywhere. It's not that great. But you do have to keep in mind that Emeraude 100 years ago smelled kind of different, probably a bit warmer than what it is today. And that's probably why they got the reputation of being so similar. And besides that, Emeraude was considered the first oriental perfume. So when it came out, it was a huge, spectacular thing. And also when Shalimar came out, it was, I guess, the second oriental perfume. So that was also a big deal. But yeah, many of the notes are similar, and they probably were even more similar many, many years ago. Today, less so, but there's still definitely some of the remaining notes from that bygone era still carry through both of these perfumes. And generally, I mean, I like both of them, but I prefer Shalimar more. because it's just warmer. I feel like the Emeraude formula has probably been cheapened a little bit over time, and kind of just the whole look with the plastic cap and kind of a very simplistic bottle design. Meanwhile, you can see the true Shalimar bottle design is still quite luxury. So Guerlain has kind of maintained and held on to its traditional vintage form, the luxury, while Emeraude, which used to be a luxury perfume, has declined, has devolved into something that is kind of a shadow of its former self. But if you can't afford Shalimar, which it's very expensive, Emeraude is pretty close. It doesn't have the smokiness. It doesn't have that incense note. It's more pine, it's more citrus with a little bit, well, quite a lot of the woodiness that comes with Shalimar. So you get a lot of the notes except for the smokiness. So that's the main thing that differentiates them. But otherwise they are both good perfumes. They're both pretty similar. Probably were more similar in the past, but that's pretty much what I have to say about both of these when compared to each other. So if you like this video, leave a like, subscribe, and I usually make videos every Tuesday or Thursday, so stick around.